Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good to see everyone here today. We are so pumped and excited to be having you here for the Cloudways Agency Advantage. Already seeing some of those emojis fly, so I feel like we're in good company. So we'll keep those going over the next couple of days. So welcome to this virtual summit. We're really excited to have you all here. I was just checking in with some folks in chat. It sounds like you're all seeing me and hearing me, which is amazing. If you haven't yet, let us know in chat where you're connecting from. Excited to do some shout outs to people here in a couple of minutes. But good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you're located in the world. We're really excited to have you here for Cloudways Agency Advantage. My name is Brent Weaver. I'm the CEO of E2M. We are a white label digital agency serving over 400 agency partners, and I'm excited to spend the next couple of days with you. If there's one thing that has been clear over the last couple of years, it's that AI it's not just another tool. It is transforming agencies, it's transforming businesses, how we sell, how we deliver, how we price, how we hire, how we compete. And the agencies that are adapting are creating all new opportunities. The ones that aren't adapting, well, we don't need to talk about those ones because that hopefully is nobody here. Hopefully, if you are here, you are adapting, you are evolving your business. And I hope this summit over the next couple of days is going to help you to further accelerate that and help you on that journey. And that's what this event is all about. It's not about hype. It's not about theory. It's about practical strategies from agency leaders who are actively building what's next for their business and for our industry, and you all get a chance to come in and learn from them. So over the next 2 days, you're going to hear from founders, you're going to hear from operators, you're going to hear from AI experts who are sharing what's actually working inside of their agencies today. And my challenge to you is really simple. I want you all to stay curious over the next couple of days. Ask questions, take notes, and leave here with at least one big or small idea that you could implement immediately that will help transform your agency. You don't need 50 ideas. I feel like you come to these events, you take copious notes, you're like, oh, I'm going to do all this stuff. And what I want to challenge you to do is implement one thing that's going to really be transformational or game-changing for you. And so be on the lookout for that idea, that tactic, that strategy over the next couple of days. And I want to just, before we go into any of the content, just a real special thanks to Cloudways. They're putting this event on. They're making this possible. They did all of the work. I might be up here in front of the camera welcoming you all today, but the amazing team at Cloudways has made this event possible. They've done all the work behind the scenes to create this experience for you all. So big shout out to Cloudways. If you're not currently a Cloudways customer, definitely check out their agency plans, their hosting plans. If you're already a Cloudways customer, well, welcome back. Glad to have you here. So thank you for the team for putting this together. So we're really excited to get this started, and we will kick into content here in just a moment. I want to quickly recognize a couple of our partners. Our company E2M, Overlap, WIM, Web, Marima. If you want to take a moment, you can check out the partners in the little virtual lobby here. You can also check out the Agency Advantage website. So I'm seeing a lot of shout outs in chat. I'm seeing Egypt. I'm seeing Saudi Arabia. I'm seeing India. I'm seeing Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I'm seeing Pakistan and Karachi. Karachi is in Pakistan. Greetings from Spain, Southern California. So I'm seeing some shout outs, lots of haze. We've got Syria. We've got Toronto, Canada, San Francisco, Cyprus. We've got truly a global audience here today with us. Now, as we go through this session over the next couple of days, keep those chats coming. I love hanging out with you all in chat, so let's keep that going. There's also a leaderboard, so participating in chat, asking questions. Those are things that are going to get you points. So keep an eye on that. We've got some cool prizes at the end. I always love doing the call outs to the prizes. So let's make sure engagement is absolutely maximum over the next couple of days. All right, you came here for content. I'm going to give you content. We're going to give you lots of content. There's going to be so much content and inspiration over the next couple of days. Our first talk is a speaker who's going to share with you how AI agents are moving beyond simple automation and beginning to execute complex tasks across operations, delivery, decision-making, and you're going to learn how agencies can leverage agentic workflows to unlock new levels of efficiency and scale. This next speaker is the Chief Operating Officer at E2M, a decade-old plus white label web design and development agency. She is focusing on how AI agents are moving beyond just basic automations. It's with great honor that I introduce our first Cloudways Agency Advantage speaker, Khushbu Doshi. Come on to the stage. Let's kick things off Cloudways style. You ready to jump in, Khushbu?
Ready to dive into the
All right,
content.
let's give Khushbu the warmest welcome. I want to see those emojis flying off the hook. I want to see the chats flying off the hook. Let's give her a warm welcome, Cloudways Agency Advantage style. Khushbu, the stage is yours.
Awesome. Thank you for the amazing introduction and really pumped up to speak about something that we have been working under the hoods, but now we are going to share it with all the amazing agency owners and all the participants that I'm seeing here. So we'll just see the chat flowing in. So we'll make this session that we have more interactive because it's not just about me saying what we are doing. It's also about what's working for you, what's not working for you, and what you think about it. And also if you have any questions, I'm going to spare at least like 5 to 6 minutes in the end so you could ask me all the questions. I'm going to share what I'm going to talk about.
I was seeing our chat on there, so now we're good. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. So today we're going to talk about the agentic era, like automating what we never could before. I guess what we never could before is something that we're still thinking on. Like we see there's so much that could be automated right now, but now is the time that we could automate it. Like when we started the pre-chat GPT era, we never thought that something like GPT would be there. When GPT came in, we never thought agents would be there. We never thought automations could be there. So today we are going to talk about how do we make everything better, and then how do we automate what we are not even thinking about today. So it looks a little bit heavy on the topic side, as in what are we going to talk about today? But let me just debrief about why am I going to talk about it today. So like Brent mentioned, I'm the COO at E2M Solutions. 8+ years agency experience. We support more than 400 agencies at E2M right now. I have an experience of working with more than 1,000+ agencies, and more importantly, myself, I've built more than 100+ automations, built 50+ AI systems, and right now work with more than 50+ agencies integrating AI into their businesses. So that's the reason I'm going to talk about everything that we're doing and how things are getting different. So looking at this agency AI transformation journey, like I mentioned, we started with the GPT era. And if you see now, we could have open source LLMs hosted on our own servers, fine tune it, use it. We see the technology has in itself evolved like so much. And there are so many things that we haven't even thought about would be possible, is all possible right now. Like thinking of a Claude code. Did we ever think in the GPT era that there would be a Claude code, or if there would be a cursor or a codex where you just go and prompt and it creates like a million line of code for you? Like I would go and create like an application every night. I didn't even think about creating that back then without having a coding background. But with the evolution of this technology, there's so much that's being evolved right now, and there's so much that's being possible right now. But now, when we look at this adoption curve, what do you think cannot be automated right now? And we'll just put our thoughts in the chat here. What do you think cannot be automated? And I might share the screen again, is what do you think is not automated right now? We see agents, we see automations, we see so much that's automated right now, but what cannot be automated? I see Google AdWords, human creativity. Someone is writing, we lost the audio. Am I audible? Okay, audio is good. Yeah, so we see that a lot of things that we are doing right now can be automated. But then what cannot be automated right now, which we think is the human judgment, the human insights, the emotions, and the intuitiveness that we have in doing something. Like the process could be reflected into an automation, but the intuitiveness, the nuances, the calls that we make on a human grounds, that's something that was not automated up until now. But why do you think that cannot be automated? Like if we could automate everything that we are doing, why these nuances that we are talking about cannot be automated? And before we get deeper into the why, I really want to take you to the challenges of 2025. Like I did a lot of research in terms of the way AI is evolving. What are the challenges that every year we face? Like 2024, the challenge was what do we do if we want to go beyond agents? Like how do we have these agents talk to each other? And then we saw that automations make that possible, where you can have these agents talk to each other. So what are the challenges of 2025 is something which is missing that human intuitiveness, which is having a good decisive power. So I'm not sure if everyone knows, but MACD had to end the AI powered drive-throughs. That was like a test run that they were doing with IBM, because they figured out that the AI powered drive-throughs were not as human as the human drive-throughs were. So what went wrong is you would go to a McD drive-through, you would order like a bunch of fries and a burger and a Coke, and then what it would cross sell you is something like, hey, do you want to add like ice cream on top of it? Or if you go and order ice cream, it says, hey, do you want to add like Coke on top of it? Which just does not make sense. Would a human on a drive-through give you the same recommendations as this AI powered drive-through was giving? The answer was straight away no. So McDonald's just ended that with IBM. The same thing happened with Klarna. I recall seeing Klarna CEO saying in 2024 that, hey, we are laying off 700 people because now we have AI agents that's going to take over and they're going to do much more than what a human is doing right now. 2025, you see the same CEO saying that, hey, we're going to rehire back people because our customer satisfaction ratio has dropped drastically since we had AI agents. And they went on and rehired a bunch of people so that, they use agents, they would leverage agents, but there'll still be humans that, their customers would go and talk to. And somewhat similar thing happened with Cursor, like Cursor being one of the top AI companies. Their CEO Michael had to go online and say that, hey, our rogue bot, that was the bot on their website, hallucinated. So there was a user that went on and asked the bot that, hey, if I want to unlock this feature, how do I do that? Instead of being on the top tier, the bot answered that, hey, you need to be on this top tier. Whereas we feel that the bot did not have a proper context or the memory on this user. So it just said that, here, you need to be on a top tier. But what is something that we can figure out from all these three examples that we kind of saw? Do we think that the AI systems that we are building right now are not smart enough? And if they are not smart enough, why aren't they smart? Like AI systems, AI is supposed to be smart. Like if we ask in GPT, if we ask in Claude, if we use these LLM models, we always think that, hey, they are smart enough. They are passing all these Turing tests. But why do we think these systems were not smart enough? Well, the answer is every agent, every automation, and every AI system is only going to be as smart as we make it. So it's going to be as smart as the human would make these automations to be. But how do we make these AI systems smarter? Like we know how to make AI systems, but how do we make these AI systems smarter that they're doing much more than just the reflection of our processes or our SOPs or our checklist? Well, this takes me back to the history. What made humans smarter? Like we have brain, and that's the integral part which is making us smarter, where we are able to take better decisions than any other living species. But what makes that smarter? Well, that's the memory circuit that our human brain is having, which is we have a working memory, which is remembering everything. So I'm talking to you right now, that's a working memory. So you're remembering that, hey, I'm giving you an example of a brain. Episodic memories, you got into this webinar, you're going to consume content about AI for the next 2 days, and then you're going to remember this example, that's going to be episodic memory. So you're remembering an event, and then the information that I'm giving to you right now is associated to an event. And what is semantic memory? Well, there is an AI wave right now. You are running a business, you're running an agency, you need to be on top of it. You enrolled for this webinar and then you're listening this. That's a semantic memory, remembering more than what just the information is. Well, this is the memory circuit that makes humans smarter. The question I had was, can we replicate that and have AI do the same way, like the thought process, the way the humans are doing? I know a lot of you would debate on like AI cannot be smarter, AI cannot replace humans, I'm definitely on your side. So I'm not saying that AI would be replacing humans. Here, what we're talking about is how do we make these AI systems smarter, like humans, where it's going to help humans to be more and more insightful. Now, if we use the same architecture that this whole, I would say, the brain has, how would that integrate into our agency or into our businesses? Well, that's what we are going to cover in like the agency AI intelligence layer. Now, intelligence layer is nothing but having this layer which is going to make your AI agents, automations, and systems more and more smarter. And we are going to see practical applications of all of this. So it's not just about like I'm pulling out data from my research or hey, this is a fancy topic that I want to talk about. This is like we have applied it, we have use cases of it. I'm going to show you practicals of it and how do you build that as well. So it's not going to be tough where I show you a system, you think, oh, this is great, but there's no way you can integrate that. We'll go step by step, and then you'll have a to do at every step where you can do it yourself. So we have three major layers of integrating AI into the businesses. One is agents. Either any agency would have agents that would go and perform, the task for them. Either they would have automations. You want to do much more than an agent. Like you want to have an SEO agent, you want to have an onboarding agent, you want to have like a content agent. And what if you want all of these agents to work together? Then you have an automation where you can connect all these agents together. And then there are AI systems, like agents and automations are for a particular service area or for a particular task. What if you want to have like an agent orchestrator that's managing everything? That's that system. And how do we integrate the intelligence layer into agents, automations, and systems? The first we are going to talk about is agents. Like, how do you integrate the intelligence layer? How do you make your agents more smarter? Well, I'm sure everyone has heard about context file, but I'm going to, I would say, break down on how do you create these context files as well. But what makes your agents smarter is context file. Now, what is a context file? So think of context like everything a senior member on your team would know before answering. Think of like you have a junior where you say that, hey, go ahead and do this task. Like you'll have to give a step-by-step process on how do you do that task. And if on the contrary, if you give the same task to a senior, they would know why we are doing this task, what is expected out of them. If you've given that task before, what did go wrong, what could be right, and then how this task could be achieved. Like everything that the senior would know is not just about that task, it's always about who we are doing this for, how we have done it priorly, and how this should exactly be done. And that's what the context is. So context is nothing but the information that you have about that particular task, and also the context of why we are doing it. So the first three, the identify, the operating, and the situational, that just talks about like the agent, like the SOP. But the fourth one, which is the decision, this is going to teach the agent how to think. But then how do we add the decision into the agent? Well, I'm sure every one of you is using either of these platforms, and all these three major frontier models provide you a facility or provide you a feature where you can go and create these agents. Like in GPT, it is named as custom GPTs. In Claude, it's known as Claude projects. In Gemini, it's called gems. But all three of these is doing the same thing, which is creating agents inside these frontier LLM models. Now, how do we add this context to the agents inside of these frontier models? So I'm going to show you an example of Claude because that's what I feel everyone uses the most. And I feel that's the best that you can have in terms of creating agents within a frontier model. So what we are going to talk about and see is how do we add context to Claude projects? So this is Claude interface. This is projects. Now, if I go on all projects, if I go on one of these projects, this is a project that I created within my Claude interface where I've given an instruction of, hey, you are an SEO strategist at E2M. What you're supposed to do is identify competitor strength, weakness, surface the ranking gaps, the technical issues, recommend a prioritized action plan. And this is a step-by-step process that you need to do. And then to make it more powerful, I've given a process playbook on exactly what does that delivery philosophy look like. What is the SEO audit framework? What is the prioritization model? How do you do certain things? What does the deliverable look like? So I've given an entire E2MS or SEO process playbook. So now this is a generic agent. That's how I would say, most of the employees or most of the people are building within an agency is without a context. So if we go and write that, hey, run a competitor, um, hey, run a competitor analysis and give me top three priorities. All right. And we're going to use this same prompt. So I'm just going to copy this and use the same prompt with the other project that I'm going to show you with the other agent. So here you see there are a lot of questions that it's asking me, despite having a prompt, despite having an instruction, despite having the file. So I'll just say, hey, take a best guess and just give me what I need. Yeah. So it's still going to ask me questions. I'm answering the questions and then it's going to give me what I need. So this is what a normal Claude agent would look like without having a context file. But then what happens differently when you have a context file? So this is the same project, like the same agent, which has the same instructions. If I go here and show you, it's the same instructions that we had in the previous agent. It has the same playbook that we had in the previous agent. The only thing different here is the context. So I've given context about Northwind HVAC, where I've given information about the client file, what the competitive landscape look like, what are things that we have already executed for them, what are the compatible outcomes, if there were any dynamics that the client had shared. So I've just given some more context on this client with all the instructions that we had given. So now if I go and paste the same prompt, we'll see the output of this agent is going to be very different as compared to the previous agent. So you see here, instead of asking me, series of questions, it's going to give me something that I really want. Now, where is this all coming from? Like, why is this agent acting differently as compared to the other agent? And that is all because of the context file that we have given. But how do you create these context files? So anyone who is working on your client knows the really good context about the client. Like, what does that profile look like, the competitive analysis, what has worked for the client, what has not worked for the client. So all they need to do is they need to just right now go and dump that information in any LLM model that you're using and just say that, hey, help me create a context file. And I have a meta prompt in the end, which you can just scan, and that's going to help you get those contexts for your clients from the models that you're using. And all you have to do is just add that file on top of your agents right now. So just one more file in the knowledge base, which is a context graph, and you'll see how your agents are performing completely different than what your agents are performing right now. So that's what the context would do to an agent. Like, without the context, we didn't even reach to top three priorities. But with the context, we are seeing that not just reaching to the priorities, but you're getting much better information than what you usually get from an agent. So what would that say second agent has access to? The second agent that had access to the context graph, which had like all the information, and it had access to decision traces. And when we say decision traces, it's like everything that has worked for the client, it has not worked for the client, the task that we have done, the task that has gone wrong, and the task that the client has kind of, succeeded on, had great results on, has appreciated the team on. So that is the only differentiator that the second agent had as compared to the first agent. So think like you have 50 clients. All you want is just having like 50 context file. If you have agents for each of your clients, just getting 50 context files, which you can have in the knowledge base for your client, and you can have it inside your client project. And this could be a skill. This could be inside a project. This could be inside an automation. So just having a context for your client is going to change the entire performance for your agent. So that's how we integrate intelligence layer within the agents that you're creating for your agency. Now, what kind of agents you could build today? You could have a brief expander, you could have a tone matcher, you could have a call prep, you could have a simulator. There's so many possibilities of agents that you can build right now for your agency. And just adding that more context, it's going to just change the way your agents are working right now. Now, if we move towards the second layer of the whole pyramid, which is automations, how do we integrate the intelligence layer to automations? Well, with agents, it was like having a context file, but with automations, we have self learning agents. Now, what would the self learning agents look like and what these agents do differently? Well, we are just taking a hypothetical example of a meeting of minutes generator where you go on a Zoom call, and you have a Zapier or a Mac or an Init and make or an Init and connection that would go and get the transcript from the Zoom call, give it to an AI agent. The AI agent would extract the items, would summarize. And this is not, I would say, a hypothetical Fathom or a Fireflies that we're talking about here. This is a specific AI agent that's not just giving you a summary or a transcript, it's giving you much more than that. It's extracting action items, it's extracting sentiments, any decisions that you want to derive out of those calls. And it sends to like your Slack channel or it creates the task automatically. Now, this is what you can achieve using any low code, no code automation tools. Right now, we'll take an example of init where I'll show you this process and how do we make like the self learning loop of the agents. Now, if you see here, this is a normal typical flow where you get a call, you get the Zoom link, you kind of get and extract the transcript out of it, you process the transcript. There's an AI agent that would go and process the transcript, give it to the other agent that would go and scrap out the action items, would scrap out what's needed for sentiment, send it to another agent that would go and make, I would say, notes out of it. The other agent is going to extract the task out of it, and it's going to send either on email or it goes on the spreadsheet. Now, in this entire flow, it goes right from the first step to the last step, but there is no agent that's learning from the output or that's learning about the client of what needs to happen after a certain call. Now, what we are going to do differently here, and this is the output of this agent, just wanted to show you like what an automation of this sort would look like and how is this different from Fireflies or Fathom. You can have your own format from the transcript where you can extract the data the way you want. Now, what is different in this automation, and we're going to see this in action, is what's different in this automation is instead of having agent one here, agent two here, agent three here, what we're doing is we're having 4 agents. We have increased the agent count by 1, but then the agent that we have added here is the self-learning agent. Now, every time you process a Zoom call, it's not only just processing it, summarizing it, extracting it, and then sending it to you, it's also learning from that call. So if you say that, hey, a client like Northwind client, they love the strategy, now we need to do this. These are the action items for us. It gives you like the whole summary of it. Next time you say that, hey, the strategy was not accepted. They had objections with content. So now instead of saying that, hey, Northwind loved the strategy on the first call, but now the content strategy is not approved, you don't need to specify all of that. Because we have a self-learning agent and that is connected to a memory, it remembers everything that has happened on the past call. And now any new information is going to be appended to the past call information that it has summarized and stored. So now you have much richer data to go and look at rather than having just the plain data which just flows from step 1 to step, like I would say, final step. So instead of a linear automation, you have self-learning agents that would go and learn every time this automation is processed. So that's how differently you can build these AI automations. And anywhere you're building these automations, be it's on Make, it's on Zapier, it's on N8N, or any other platform that you're building on, there's always a way that you can add these self-learning agents. And these self-learning agents should be connected to a memory. Here I've used simple memory, but you could use any kind of database. It should be connected to a database where you're storing all this context that you're gathering, which could be used next time when this automation is being processed. If we go forward, if you are intrigued about what does that architecture look like the nerd in me always wants to draw down the architecture of, what would this look like in action in the backend. So this is what it looks like in action. Like in the back end, you have a self-learning agent that would go and work. It would extract the information, it would store it, and it would use it when the process happens the next time. Now, for the first end-to-end automation that I showed that just had logic. It did not have context on what had happened on the previous meeting. But I guess the one that we saw next, what different the end-to-end automation had was it had a self-learning agent. Now it just not only is having a logic, it's also having the context on how do you use that previous information and then make this current information more valuable. So that's what we added. We added like a context layer. The logic layer was already there, and what we added was giving it more context. Now, what are the other automation ideas? You can have like a form to brief, PM tools, a sentiment analysis, a weekly team digest. Now, you don't need to note down these automation or the agent ideas. At the end, I have a library which will help you think what are the different kinds of agents, automations, and systems you can build for your agency. And the last is AI systems. Like, how do we build AI systems? And then how do we integrate the AI intelligence layer into the systems? Now we saw agents had like context. The automations had like self-learning agents. Now AI systems, we can have a semantic context and a compounding learning loop. Like this sounds very, I would say, fancy, or this sounds very complicated, but when you see that in action, it's super simplified. Semantic context, just like how we had semantic memory in the brain working, semantic context is context of the overall, I would say, situation. So if there is an escalation, or if there is like a renewal that's happening, or if you're winning a deal, it's not just storing information about, hey, deal one, stage, and revenue. It's also storing the information about who was there on the call, what the client wanted, what are the pain points you are solving, how did you win the deal, what was the playbook used for it. So everything beneath that data layer goes to the semantic context. So that is something that we'll be adding in these systems. And then we'll be adding compounding learning loop. So semantic context gives everything about the history that the system needs to know. And the compounding learning is right now all things that are happening in these AI systems. It's learning from every process that's happening within the system. Now, this sounds complicated, but we are going to see that in action. So right now, the agencies work right now the way is you have an agent, you give a task to the agent, you give the rule book like a checklist, and then you get like an output outside of that. But what we want to do is, and personally, this was the problem that I faced, and this is all out of, I would say, pain point, is we have more than 400 clients. And when I say 400 clients, is we are integrated into their ecosystem. We use their project management tool. We get into their Slack channels. So you can think of like all the team members, like more than 350 team members, 400 agencies, all these different tools that we have in the ecosystem. And if I want to see a churn risk analysis, or if I want to see where we are doing good, where we are not doing good, being in the client services or being in account management, it just becomes super, super difficult for you to keep a track of everything. And I'm sure that's a problem that every agency owner would have is, hey, we have a lot of clients, there's a lot happening within my team, there's a lot happening on my client side. How do we keep a track of everything that's happening? And not just keeping a track of it, but doing much more than that. So an agentic agency you see here, they'll use, zillion different types of tools that are needed to do their jobs better. So now what the kind of AI system that I created was, with the help of the team, was how do we get all this information about all these agencies that we are working with inside one tool? And then we have like a model that we use to analyze information and to give us the insights. So we'll just see that tool in action. And I was just so amazed by the way it just comes out. So you see the dashboard here. You see the dashboard where it just gives me the briefing about today, what has happened today, what should be in top of my mind across all the clients. Per client, what are things that I should be aware about? Now this is all dummy data, this is not active client. So just to give you in context, if you see some information where you feel, oh, this is off, but yes, this is all AI generated for the demo. I see exactly how many companies we're having the escalation overview, what the activity overview look like, or if there are any risks in any of these clients, what are those risks telling me, and then what are the clients that we have. So I'll go into any of these clients, and it kind of shows me by the stages. It would go red if the sentiment is going down or if there is a churn risk analysis here. So it would naturally go red. So now this would get my attention as, hey, this is something that I need to look at. And if I just open any of the clients, you'll see here that it tracks everything right from their contract stage to where they are right now. Like the entire post sales client journey is being tracked here. I'll get to see the team members working on it, what's the ARR on this, and I'll just generate today's updates. It would go and check their PM tools, it would go and check the Slack channels, it would go and check the Zoom, and then I'll get a summary of everything that's happening on this account in the customer cheat sheet here. And the health score here, now this is what the most interesting part is. It just derives as health score, and it's not a fancy system. It would just go and derive the health score by assuming a few things. Like we have a proven process in place is you just go to timeline, you'll see all the meetings in here. And if I click on any of these meetings, I'll not only just see the summary and the transcript, which is natural. You get to see that in like almost all the tools. When I click on speaking analytics, we had our own logic of what we think is a churn risk, what we think is a neutral state for the client, what we think is the positive state for the client. So if you see here, you see the speaking balance, the speed of it, decision ready. So what are the decisions that were made on this call? What are the prioritized next action items? How much was the team responding? How many objections were raised by the clients? Were there any objections that the team could not answer? What was the overall sentiment of the call? Sentiment or the speaking time share, how many times the client spoke, the average turn duration, like the question density, turn count. Like you'll see every data that you can get out of a Zoom call. Now, this is all not based on just transcript. Like we tried using just a text model where you kind of analyze it all based on the transcript, but then the sentiment that we got were not 100% precise. So what we did was we sliced out the audio, we got the video, like the expressions for it, and then we got the transcript. So if there is something that we felt is off, which is taking that to like a red zone, which is churn analysis, or there is a risk in that, we would map that to the audio. Is the voice saying the same thing? And is the expression saying the same thing? Then we would move it to like a sentiment that's going low for this client, like a health score going low. So if you see here, there is like neutrals, frustrated is expressing concern about the research process, like happy, excited, what are the objections of the clients that were raised. So this is everything that we would scrap out from a Zoom call, which goes into like the health score. Action items, which is again scrapped out from the whole transcript, which you can directly add, and there's meeting MOM. So what happens here is if we go, you're not just seeing like everything in one place, but just gives you so much more insight than me logging into their Slack channel, seeing their project management tools, seeing the emails, seeing the Zoom calls, listening to them. This gives me a much more better, preview of everything that I should know about that client, like their growth opportunities, communication. You can connect this to Slack. And now if I go on messages and if I see like the Slack channel, I can just run analysis and I don't need to scroll through like all the hundreds of messages that's happening between my team and the client. I just get to see the analysis of it. And if there is something that I should be looking at. So if I just run an analysis, you'll see there is positive, negative. So I just want to focus on negative. So I'll just look at the Slack messages that were flagged as negative. Now, this is what an AI system would look like, where we have in the back end, there's agents and automations, and there's so much that's working in the back end to make this happen. So, this is what a typical AI system would look like. Now, what we are talking about here is how do we make this system smarter? Like, what do you think is missing in systems like this? Well, it's the intelligence that the agency has gathered over the years. So all I see is what is happening with the agency right now. But how I used to take decisions when there is any risk of churn, or when any of the clients was going into a neutral stage. What are the things that we should be doing to move the needle for that client is something that's missing in this AI system. So now what do we do when something is missing is going back to the first principle is we built an intelligence layer. And here we built the layer in a way where we provided it the working memory, the episodic memory, and the semantic memory. And how did we integrate that is by adding a context graph. Now, what is a context graph? A context graph is storing information not just about what exists, what has happened, but also storing information about the why. If there were objections, what are the objections that were raised? Why were they raised? Scope clarity, what is the urgency? What did the team reason for those objections? If they were not solved, why they were not solved? If there is a cross sell, why that cross sell happened? What was the playbook that was used? So, storing the context, which is the why behind everything that has happened. This is what the architecture of the database look like. But then I'm going to show you in working, like how is this different. So you saw this hub, like it gives you all the information, the insights, everything that you need to know about what's happening. But when we go one step further into, like, everything is going great hypothetically, and there are like more than 350 clients, I just want specific answers to a questions which is not very specific to a client. Like, I just want to know what playbooks are working right now, who is the best performing account manager. I don't want to go and ask a person because that could be a biased answer. Rather, I would just go and have a brain. Now, this brain that we have built inside a client hub, which is also, we call it as agency brain, this is the context layer that I just talked about with the architecture that you saw here, which is built inside of Client Hub that we have created. So you see here all these nodes. These are the nodes or the contexts of the information that we have shared, that we have stored across all the different platforms that you're seeing. So I'll just go here and ask that, hey, which account has the best upselling opportunity and why? If anyone is wondering what I'm using Whisper Flow, where you just click on the function key, dictate, and you get it on your text box. So now you see all these nodes being highlighted, and then you'll see the information is being fetched across all the accounts, all the account managers, and it is the E2M semantic layer that is going to fetch the information from. So now I'll not only just get to know about a client, I'll get to know about everything. So you'll see all 5 opportunity files were read, fresh in turn, no reread needed. Pexoria Digital is something, Claude MCP layer is something that is the best upselling opportunity. 2 more upselling opportunities, why others don't compare. So it's giving me a complete hypothesis. So now this is not just giving me the information, it's giving me the information based on the context that's stored across E2M. So it's not about this specific client. It's like which playbook is working right now for our clients and how do we replicate that in all of the clients. It's going to search for everything that's working and then give me all the details which would help me kind of replicate that for all of the clients. So this is what a context layer can add on top of your normal AI systems that you're going to create. Well, what is different this time is you're not just getting like the sentiment, revenue, and the health score. You're also getting the why behind each of the data that's stored in the hub. Now, this is just one example or one problem statement that we have solved. Is like, hey, creating a agency brain, creating a client hub, and this is how we solve like the post sales problem. But this same playbook could be applied across like creating a sales intelligence, creating an account intelligence, or creating a delivery intelligence. So this same intelligence could be applied across your entire agency. So right now, the best processes live inside the best people, and that is fragile. Like, think about the best people that you have in your team right now, and what if they go? The best processes or the best playbooks just go with them. But with an intelligence layer, your best thinking becomes a system, which is scalable. You can use that same playbook, you can have someone else use the same playbook and get the results. Now, everything that I've shown so far is not something that I'll be able to achieve individually. We have a team of more than 85 AI experts as of now who is building behind the scenes and making this possible for agencies. So I definitely wanted to give them a shout out before I wrap up my presentation. And as I said, that it's not just going to be series of information and demos that I'm going to share with you. This is an automation library where you can scan this, and what this gives you is it's a blueprint of everything that we have, we have done feasibility studies on. So there are a lot of automations that we work with agencies, or we help agencies kind of, work with businesses. So this is just to give you an idea of what AI can solve right now. Like this is having like a problem statement, what's the solution for that problem statement? And not just that, it also has a prototype of what a solution of this kind would look like. So this is just a compilation of every problem that we thought of an agency would have. There is much more than that. This is just like a starting point for you to think that what kind of AI systems you can have. And I'm still going to put that the QR so you can scan this. And like I mentioned, how do you get the context? So this is a meta prompt that you can go and copy and use this in any of the LLM models that you're using right now. And you'll get a context which you can use in any of the agents or automations or systems that you're building. All right. Thank you, everyone. That was it from my side. I know it's a lot of information, but yeah.
Hey, Khushbu, can you bring that QR code up? We're going to do a couple minutes of questions. Just want to make sure nobody missed that. I'm looking at the time clock on this one. The question came in about 9:42. And actually, before I ask this question, just like, let's give Khushbu a round of applause. Like, how awesome was that? That was all killer, no filler. So let's give Khushbu some love in chat, and let's see some of those emojis fly. Thank you, Khushbu. And we're going to maybe get a couple of questions for you before we transition to our next speaker. So I think you were showing maybe Client Hub or Agency Brain, and one of the questions from Hikma was, what's the cost of building this exact system? And so I don't know if that's something that you can, kind of share kind of at a high level.
Sure. So it took us like 18 months to come to this stage where it's working across like 400 clients, and we are keeping on evolving this over time with every new technology advancements. But we will be, I would say, providing this because we don't want to gatekeep something like this that we created and it's working wonders for us. So if you are someone who's interested in building this or just want to use what we have created, like we can definitely connect and I can help you with the next steps. But
Okay.
creating something like this of your own is like right now I see building is like, you can create this in a month, but it's all about training, refinement, and bringing this to a level where you can just integrate it from day one.
Awesome. And I don't know if were you not able to share your screen while we're doing Q&A, or I just wanted to have that
I
QR
did
code
share
up.
my screen.
Oh, just leave it up if you want to leave that QR.
I can share the link to the context prompt.
Let's just put the both links in chat. That will solve the problem for me. So thank
Perfect.
you. A quick note. I am seeing. I love the questions, but I think I'm seeing a couple of folks in here that are getting a little hot and heavy with lots and lots and lots of questions coming in at almost the exact same minute, which makes me question the question. So please put in human-generated questions, things that you're curious about. Please don't just put questions in to try to accrue points for the leaderboard. But how do you, this is from Matt Robinson, how do you build fail-safes that revert agentic changes to a previous stable state within seconds of detecting a critical error? Any thoughts on that one, Khushbu?
So we have a log for that, and then we have a human in loop that would go and check the logs before any, I would say, edit is made on the agent. So it's not that if we have a learning loop, you would let these agents learn itself. Like we would have like an error log, and there's a human that would go and check these logs, and then we'll have these agents go and do a reinforcement learning.
This is coming in from Hammam. What types of decisions should never be delegated to AI agents, regardless of how accurate or capable they become, and why?
That's a great one. So anything that has the human intuitiveness in it, like right now for security concerns, we are not delegating anything that's related to finance or anything that's has like a higher impact or magnitude into an organization. But right now, if you ask me, we would never replace like sales process with agents. We would never replace the customer service or the feedback process with any kind of agents, because that's where you don't want to lose that human touch that you have with your clients. So that's where I would never have agents do that work.
Okay. And then any thoughts on how you, I know we kind of hear this term like human in the loop, but like how you create systems where you have a human overseeing an agent? Like, is that something that you have, like how do you guys typically approach the kind of human in the loop and then the humans overseeing the autonomous agents?
Right. So a human in a loop is a part of the automation. So you have, let's say, four agents that would work synchronously together. If you have a human in a loop, these two agents would work, and then it would not start the third recursive process of like the third agent. You need to approve of the data, or you need to approve of the content, or you need to approve the input that goes to that third agent, which again starts this whole process. So it's not like you start the journey from first agent, it goes and creates like the whole output, and you just get the finished output at the fourth agent. You can have like a loop in between where you break that whole synchronous process, have a human go and overview, give like approve, and then it goes to the next series of agents.
Last question, and then we're going to hand the baton here to our next speaker and host. Should agents be allowed to generate and deploy creative assets, i.e. images, video, or copy, without a human verifying brand alignment and legal compliance?
No. There has to be a human element because it's all about like legal compliance, and I'm not sure how much compliant these agents are right now. Like for GPT, I know that you see that it's generated through AI. They have a watermark on top of like the whole left, I would say, a corner. But still, if it's a legal compliance, you always need to have a human in loop that would always go and check these creatives before posting it anywhere.
Absolutely. And I'm a big fan of like having that human in the loop. And if at some point it becomes very clear that that person's just hitting approve, like for good reason, right? Then maybe those are things that could be looked at later, right?
Yeah.
But I think definitely right now with where AI is at, I'd encourage human in the loop on those. Well, Khushbu, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. Another round of applause for Khushbu. I'm seeing lots of love in chat. So yeah, lots of and there's some additional questions in chat. So if you didn't put your question in the Q&A panel, it probably got missed because I'm not looking at chat while we're queuing those up. So for the next session, make sure you guys put those questions in the questions tool. But let's give Khushbu another round of applause. Khushbu, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. And we're going to go to our Cloudways hosting team. Danish is going to be introducing our next speaker. Good to see you, Kevin Brown.